Welcome to Ask Rabbit ProRevenge, where a mean Karen acts like she knows the owner and it costs her over $4,000. I have some awesome stories for you today, so let's jump into it. This first post is titled, I froze my psycho neighbor out of her apartment. In college, my two friends and I decided to find a place together off campus. We found a beautiful 3-bedroom house with surprisingly affordable rent. The basement of the house was listed as a separate apartment, but as it had a separate entrance and the indoor stairwell had been blocked off, we weren't worried. And the thermostat was upstairs. Then the demon neighbor moved in. From upstairs, we could hear everything. This adult woman would call her mother and scream at her to pay her cell phone bills and give her grocery money, aka Taco Bell and cheap tequila. She would scream at whatever guy she was sleeping with to bring over her drugs, and one day she brought home 3 puppies to scream at too. We were terrified of this woman, and the noise was hell. Also, we'd been idiotic enough to sign a lease stating we were responsible for all utilities, period. Meaning we were now financing her gas, water, and electric. But with only 2 months left on the lease, we thought we could just ride it out. But then she started smoking. Constantly. According to the landlord, she'd quit for good when she signed the lease, but for good only lasted 2 days. Since it was winter, the heat was running nearly 24/7 and the smoke was wafting up from the vents. Our apartment and all our belongings began to reek with smoke. We contacted the landlord because we'd signed for a bloody non-smoking apartment. He told us we lived in a state where you could technically call an apartment non-smoking even if it shared ventilation with a smoking apartment. Screw you, leasing laws. At this point, my roommates were heading out for a 2-week vacation. They were online students while I was residential, leaving me alone in the apartment with the demon smoker in the basement. I couldn't sleep or eat because my idiotic stomach decided to react to all the secondhand smoke by aching and cramping constantly. After 3 days, I was a little insane. I made a plan. I checked the forecast. Lows in the 20s all week. I borrowed a friend's ultra-insulated sleeping bag. I bought one of those ski masks with the holes for your eyes and mouth. I got out my stocking cap, my silk-long underwear, my woolen socks, and my down parka. I bought tea, hot cocoa, and ramen and prepared to live off a diet of hot liquids. And I turned off the freaking heat. Day 1, she's screaming at her mother for forcing her to move into this frozen crap hole of an apartment. Day 2, she's screaming at her boyfriend, aka drug dealer, because he won't let her move in with him. Day 3, she's screaming at the landlord about how she's freaking freezing. Day 4, the landlord is at my door. I greet him in a full ski mask, parka, stocking cap array, looking like I'm heading out to rob Santa Claus at the North Pole. He asks me if I don't find it a little chilly in the house. I reply, I'd found all the cigarette smoke a little warm. Day 5. She's screaming about the mean ladies upstairs to anyone who will listen. And I'm sitting upstairs clutching my car keys and my pepper spray with 911 typed into my phone. She finally decides she's freaking leaving and moving in with Greg. Even though he just got out for stabbing Travis and he lives in that freaking creepy house in the woods with all those butthead biting dogs. Day 6, she's gone. I silently bless Greg. Moral of the story, there's a freaking reason the rent seems too good to be true. Alright, I hope you all enjoyed that first post. Before we get into the next post, if you guys could please do me a huge favor and smash that like button down below. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any future content. Alright, this next post is a good one, but it will get your blood boiling. This post is titled, The Karen That Breeds Minion Karens. This all happened around Christmas and New Year's, but I just found the sub and I'm obsessed with it now, so I have to give my story. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Italy in the 70s and opened up a restaurant. When they passed away, the restaurant went to my parents. Over the decades, they grew and expanded it. I've been working at the restaurant since I was 15. Over time, my parents got older and eventually retired, becoming snowbirds. They go to Florida for the winters. They left the restaurant to me about a few years ago, but they're still retaining a small percentage of ownership as an additional revenue stream along with their savings and annuities. Soon as I gained control, I pretty much modernized the old place, remodeled the restaurant, changed the logo, and reached out to local and national papers to put out ads, invited food critics, bloggers, vloggers, etc. It was very slow at first, and I began to worry about the loan I took out to do all of this was the biggest mistake I had ever done, and I ruined 3 generations of my family's business. But eventually, it began to work, and a local semi-famous YouTuber featured us in one of his videos, and that was the catalyst for even more people to come and review, and eventually we were seeing 5 to 10x the business we usually got, even if it's a Monday. We became a hotspot for major events, and it wasn't uncommon for a celebrity to come. On those nights, I even arranged for special high-profile chefs to come visit and cook for our guests. That costs a fortune. So during the holidays, we were beyond packed. It got to the point where people would have to make reservations in July to get a table in December. This process took years to get where we are now. When it gets busy, I don't just sit in the back office, I'm on the floor doing whatever needs to be done. Even if that means I greet people, bussing tables, or even mopping the floors. Other nights, when we have high-profile guests or events, I'm in a blazer and am acting in charge though. On one night, a group of 6 women walk in. 5 of them look like they're still in their early 20s, and the head of the group looked like she was in her mid-20s. Best theory, she was one of the other 4 girls' older sister and possibly an older sorority sister to incoming college freshmen maybe. I was greeting at the door. As they were walking up, Queen Bee Karen was telling the baby Karens on how awesome this place is. Food is amazing, and there might even be celebrities here. When she came up to me, she told me she needed a table for 6. I replied, "Of course, can I please get the name on the reservation?" She looked at me and said, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's okay. The owner is a personal friend of mine. He said he always has 1 or 2 tables that he keeps open for special guests and said we can have one of those tonight." Now, generally, this is true of many high-profile restaurants, and lately I have been doing that as well, but I had no clue who this woman was, and she definitely never spoke to me about any of this. I did get she was trying to get in without a reservation, but she literally picked the worst person she could possibly talk to and try this. I told her, "I'm sorry, but we cannot see anyone without a reservation. As you can see, we do not have any seats available." I didn't want to go all out and say I'm the owner and we have never spoke before, so I never promised you a thing because I didn't want to embarrass her in front of the other girls she was with. She then went on and said out loud to one of the other girls to take a picture of me. She will speak to the owner and make sure I'm either cleaning the toilet or fired by the end of the week. The other girls following her lead were like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I'm not sure if they were in on it or they honestly thought she knew the owner. Queen Bee Karen then went on to say, "Look, you can either give us a table or I can make your life very difficult. This is not worth losing your job." Constantly just trying to put me down, saying things like, "Obviously, you aren't anyone here, because if you were, you would know who I am and never even try to tell me anything other than yes or of course." Constantly trying to belittle me and get that table. At this point, it was a long day for me, and the way I saw it, I had 3 options. 1, tell her I'm the owner and just call her out on all of this. 2, give her the table and let it be. 3, teach Queen Bee Karen and her little minions a lesson. I chose option 3 for various reasons, including some personality flaws I am aware that I have, but I like to think it was at least 50% really wanting to teach her a lesson. I smiled at her, said, "Of course, ma'am, follow me please," and I gave her one of the 3 tables we keep open in case a celebrity comes in. Happens time to time. I told her I apologize for everything, and she's right, it would be simpler just to give her a table. I also told her that the first 3 rounds of drinks will be complimentary. I sat them down and personally served them. As they were sitting down, I told them I do need one of the credit cards and IDs just to keep on file, and we will give it back to you before we leave. Queen Karen gave me her cards and told the baby Karen minions that tonight was on her. I took their orders and got them all free drinks and told them due to how busy we are tonight, there might be a delay on the food. All the girls were thinking of and cared about were their free rounds. They ordered the 3 rounds and still no food. They eventually called me and asked to check on it, the whole time giving me the world's most nasty attitude since even before they ordered. I told them I will check on it, but also asked if they would like more drinks. They ordered 2 more rounds by the time the appetizers arrived. At this point, they were all drunk. Having done nothing but drink on an empty stomach most of the night and only having salads after, as more food arrives, the more drinks are ordered. What these girls never realized was that they were at the VIP table, which alone cost a few $1,000s to sit in, but I didn't charge them for that. What I did charge them for was all the super expensive cocktails they had through the whole night, except for the first 3 rounds. In addition, the table they were sitting at was VIP, so the menus were a bit different. For one, they don't say the prices on them. It's a trade secret. In addition, it had certain higher end menu options such as white truffle, black caviar dishes, and specially imported West Coast oysters, among other things. At one point of the night, I was honestly rethinking what I was doing and thought I might be going too far with these poor girls. They might not know any better, but some things reassured me throughout the night. Such as one of the baby Karens asked me if I felt like my life was worthless since all I ever became was a waiter. Also, one of the other employees told me how they were discussing how to screw with me to the point that they can just do this whenever they want and I will know to always give them a table. I also overheard them say, "He's cute, but I would never date a waiter like that. He's such a pushover." There were a bunch of comments like that the whole night. So I kept on with the life lesson. By the end of the night, each girl racked up a bill in the range of $500 to $600 per girl. When I handed the Queen Karen the bill of $4,232.23 with tax and tip included, of course, I have never seen anyone sober up so quickly. She went from laughing and giggling with her friends to nearly in tears. She called me over instantly and asked if this was some kind of joke. I took the bill, looked it over, and said, "Oh, yes, I apologize. I will get you the correct bill in a moment." Again, she felt a complete sense of relief, thinking she got someone else's bill, called me a freaking idiot, and went on talking to her friends. To be fair, I did make a mistake. I did forget to count her 8th order of a dozen oysters that cost about $120 per order, so I gladly went back and added it to the order. When I went back to give her the correct bill, she flipped out again, going crazy. I just asked if there was something on this bill that she didn't order. She and the girls in shock go over every single line of the bill, including the first few lines that show their original 3 rounds which say complimentary. They then took out their phones and line by line went over everything line by line for the 100th time, adding everything up. Extremely rattled, Queen Bee Karen simply said, "1 second, I need to use the washroom." Part of me thought she might just try to pull a dine and dash and leave the baby Karens with the bill, but kinda low-key, I did in a way remind her that we had her ID and credit card without making it obvious I thought she was going to run out on the bill. 10 minutes later, she comes back with new makeup. Obviously, she had been crying and makes up a whole story on how the food was awful, the drinks were bad, and so on, demanding that as bare minimum I should cut the bill in half with the agreement that the baby Karens will chip in, even though she originally told them the night would be on her. Then, as if a light bulb went off in her head, she again mentioned her relationship with the owner as if it were to give me an additional incentive to cut the bill in half. Holding back a grin at this point, I told her no. Just no. I can't change the bill. She whips out her phone and shows me a series of texts with someone called my restaurant's name owner, which pretty much I realized what she was doing in the bathroom was probably just changed one of the other Karen minions' contact name and deleted the previous text so to start the new script. I read them and clicked on the contact info and told her that's not the owner's cell phone number. Her reply was, "He has multiple phones for businesses and stuff. Of course you don't know all his numbers." I remember, wow, this girl thought of everything except I'm the actual owner. I told her, how about this? If we call him and he says it's okay to take 50% off the bill, then I'll do it. Her reply was a yelling and screaming over the time where there were a few remaining customers, all began to start looking, and I knew, okay, time to end this. I told her already in a less accommodating voice, "Cut the crap, little girl. You don't know the owner. You have never been here before, and if you keep yelling, I will call the police." Her demeanor changed, and she was trying to defend herself as best she could. My reply to her weak comebacks was, my grandparents founded this restaurant. My family has been running this place for generations. I have worked here for almost my entire life. I am the one and only owner of this restaurant, and I have never once seen you, heard of you, and I definitely never made a stranger I don't know and have never met before tonight any promises. The mini Karens were just frozen and didn't even know how to react. Queen Bee Karen was in tears. I said, "Now I gave you the table you wanted, one of your specially reserved tables for high-end clients, which I didn't charge you for, and I gave you 3 rounds of free drinks. If you don't pay your bill, I will call the cops and hand them your ID." In tears, Queen Karen signed the bill, and the many Karens took out their purses and gave her whatever little cash they have, which equaled to maybe a couple hundred, with the promise to pay her back some more. 2 days later, a man walks into my restaurant, fuming, and asks one of my bartenders to speak with me. I was in the back office for a bit working, so he waited a good half hour for me. He was Queen Bee Karen's father. She was with him too, keeping her head down. I took them both to my office and showed them the highlights of the security cameras, which were especially good quality of audio because they were in the VIP, which we have good records of because we have had other unrelated incidents before. So I showed him most of it, their comments, their orders, their everything. When all was said and done, he stormed out with her and was screaming at her the whole time as they were walking away. I haven't seen or heard from either of them since, but the original bill I gave them, the one that didn't count the $120 of oysters, is framed on my desk. Alright, that's going to wrap up today's Pro Revenge video. I hope you enjoyed those 2 stories today. If you did, definitely go ahead and smash that like button for me. Make sure to leave a comment letting me know which one was your favorite story, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss any future content. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.